Hello, everyone. For this presentation, I will discuss our iConference short research paper titled Flexibility, Occupation, and Gender, Insights from a Panel Study of Online Freelancers. My name is Isabel Munoz. I'm a PhD candidate at Syracuse University. My paper co-authors are Michael Dunn and Steve Sawyer, and I will discuss our ongoing research, which is a collaboration between Syracuse University and Skidmore College. The takeaways from our research are threefold. First, I'll highlight that freelancers highly value job flexibility, even when their flexibility is diminishing. Second, I'll showcase how freelancers' occupation mediates their experiences on online labor platforms. And I distinguish the experiences of three broad categories of workers, specifically administrative, creative, and technology workers. Finally, I'll discuss how gender impacts the outcomes of this form of work. We focus on how online labor platforms are helping to reshape the future of work and advance our understanding of flexibility, occupation, and gender in platform-based labor. Our work draws on literature that highlights several trends. First, we know that independent knowledge work, also known as freelancing, is a growing form of work. Also, individuals are relying more and more on technology for work. An Upwork survey reports that approximately 55 million people, or 37% of the US workforce, take part in the economy as freelancers across a variety of platforms. As such, platforms like Fiverr and freelancer.com are transforming the ways workers find employment opportunities and carry out their work tasks. Additionally, the ongoing pandemic has led many employers hire more freelancers globally. Another important trend in the literature is the importance of flexibility for online freelancers. Previous literature highlights that individuals are especially drawn to online work for the flexibility it affords. Online work provides individuals an opportunity to do work that is not dependent on a geographic location, and workers may be able to have control over their schedules and clients. More recently, however, research has been more critical of this form of work, noting how precarious it can be. For example, flexibility and autonomy workers have depends on the availability of work, competition, deadlines, and other factors that may be imposed by the client or the broader market trends. Additionally, this form of work tends to be gendered as more women are drawn to it due to its perceived flexibility. Based on these empirical insights, our research questions are: 1, what are the experiences and expectations of online freelancers in the face of rapid market changes? And we are using COVID-19 as one of the cases that disrupted the market. And 2, in what ways do responses differ by occupation and gender? To address our research questions, we pursued a longitudinal panel study of online freelancers on Upwork. We chose the Upwork platform because it is the largest online freelance platform. We sampled 68 US-based workers who pursue freelance work as a primary or secondary source of income. Our propulsive sampling framework ensured we included workers across occupations, genders, ages, and levels of experience. Our study combined a survey and semi-structured interview to get in-depth insight about workers' experiences. The study includes 2 rounds of data collection, with the first round running from December 2019 through April 2020, which straddled the arrival of COVID-19, and then the second round ran from December 2020 through March 2021. As such, the study's design and interview schedule provided us time to collect data from freelancers before and during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. This slide includes a summary of our sample demographics. As you can see, we categorized workers by gender and job classification. We included both workers that use freelancing as primary and additional source of employment, and the participants had a range of experience levels, ranging from 0 to 20 years of experience doing work on digital platforms. Our initial finding reinforces what previous literature has noted, that flexibility is core to freelancers. From our participants, more than half said flexibility is critical, and another 44% noted it is useful or helpful to them. However, On the other hand, we found that worker-controlled flexibility tends to be low. Data suggests that worker-controlled flexibility in online freelancing is typically low due to the need to continuously find new work and accept work and project rates that don't always align with workers' expectations. And these challenges were exacerbated since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. As noted by our participants, worker-controlled flexibility decreased amid the pandemic as freelancers saw more competition and a drop in their clients. As such, freelancers we spoke to saw a decrease in the number of proposals accepted, as well as a marked decrease in their compensation. This is likely stemming from this increased competition. And this was true for both long-term and new freelancers, as well as full-time and part-time freelancers. Data also show freelancers' experiences differ across occupations. For example, administrative workers like those doing data entry and market research tend to face more competition. These workers report higher rates of weekly job bids, lower hourly wages, and lower earning predictability. However, during the COVID-19 pandemic, administrative freelance workers had the smallest earnings decrease as compared to that experienced by creative and technology workers. Next, we learned that creative workers, such as writers, graphic designers, voice talent, by a wide margin report a greater dependency on their wages from gig work. 66% of creative workers, for example, relied on this type of work as their primary source of income, as compared to 50% of technology workers and 42% of administrative workers in our sample. They also report the lowest health coverage. Finally, technology workers, such as developers and IT workers, report some of the highest wages, but they report facing a harder time securing work. They also saw the greatest decrease in wages since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Our last finding is about the role of gender in freelancers' experiences. We found evidence that gender mediates the experiences of freelance workers, as some of the occupations that are most precarious are gendered. For example, in our sample, 65% of the administrative workers were women, which tends to be the reality across freelance workers. This means that these women face more competition, lower wages, and lower earning predictability. Additionally, across all occupations, women freelancers reported a lower average monthly income than men. This is the case despite having equal or more years of freelance experience than their male counterparts. Data also showed women reported a higher percentage of their work being done on Upwork, with Upwork accounting for an average of 43.5% of all work for women, as compared to only 33% for men. Finally, the women in our sample were more likely than men to reduce their working hours when the COVID-19 pandemic started to help absorb the increased share of caregiving and other domestic responsibilities during the pandemic. Findings suggest workers are clearly motivated by the perception of freelance work as being flexible. This is despite that this is more of an aspiration than reality for most workers. Our findings highlight that earnings uncertainty, increased competition, and lack of labor protections for online freelance workers diminishes the perceived worker-controlled flexibility. Instead, workers are left to spend hours of unpaid work to find and complete new work and take on less than desirable projects and tasks. The experiences of workers also vary by occupation and gender, with administrative workers and women facing some of the most precarious work conditions, including lower pay. This finding aligns with literature that shows women are overrepresented in certain occupations, namely those associated with lower earnings. Finally, these findings highlight the precarity for online freelance work, raising questions about the exacerbated challenges among certain population of workers and the market-based labor structures more generally. Considering these implications, future work should continue to focus on the differential experiences of workers in the underregulated space of online freelancing. We propose 3 primary areas for future work, including studies of gender and race, studies of job quality and precarity of new freelance workers, and studies of clients who are hiring freelancers on digital platforms. Addressing these areas will allow us to develop a deeper understanding about the impact and challenges of online freelancing for all players in this form of labor. Our research group is beginning to tackle each of these areas, and as we continue to interview freelancers annually, we seek to understand how these workers adapt to the platform, as well as how their job quality has evolved and how their career strategies continue to change. Before concluding this presentation, I want to highlight everyone who has made this work possible, including the Digital Work Research Group, Syracuse University's Office of the Vice President of Research, SOURCE, and the National Science Foundation for their support. Thank you all for listening. I hope you learned something and enjoyed the presentation. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.